recording. Okay.
Yes, you are live.
Okay. Hello there and welcome back to Elamba Television. My name is Angel Lady. And like I told you before in a previous broadcast that we'll bring you details of averages that we find. And of course, Elamba Television heads straight to every news as soon as it drops. Yes, because we are interested in you getting to know about it first. And for you to get all of this information, you like our Facebook page, you subscribe to our Instagram channel, and of course our YouTube channel as well. You do subscribe and turn on the notification. Well, let's go on for the gist of today. COVID-19 has been a pandemic that has ravaged the world and kept a lot of people on their knees, and a lot of businesses gone down, sectors closed down, schools, oh, don't mention. And we've all been praying for a breakthrough. We've all been waiting for how this COVID-19 will be brought under control. And the good news is there's light at the end of a tunnel as a Nigerian has come forth with a vaccine. Of course, we'll give you the details, and then other stories will come up just like we do. We'll tell you what's making news, what's trending, what's happening at this point. And as at today, you get to know everything. So let's head straight to the gist on the COVID-19 breakthrough. Nigerian doctor Onyema Ogbabu identified as key figure in Pfizer's COVID-19 vaccine breakthrough. Dr. Onyema Ogbagu, a Nigerian doctor, has been identified as a key figure in the research that led to United States pharmaceutical company Pfizer to develop the first effective COVID-19 vaccine. Speaking in an interview with ABC News on the vaccine, he said, although doses will be unavailable to everyone at first, massive distribution was expected to take off in the first quarter of 2021. Pfizer said it would launch a pilot in 4 states in the United States, but there have been concerns as the vaccine needs to be stored at minus 94 degrees Fahrenheit, which is minus 70 degrees Celsius, a challenge well said will be overcome soon. Wagu is an associate professor of medicine and infectious disease specialist at Yale School of Medicine, who graduated in 2003 from the University of Calabar with a degree in medicine. So, people, this tells us that there is hope. Okay, so people are going to come out, schools are going to come back fully eventually. It's a gradual process, it's new, yes, we know, but there's hope. Okay, so we move on now to the details that we've got for you for the RDGs that we've got for you today. And we're looking at this news from Elumba's site, that is www.elumba.com. So you want to get this gist, you want to read them for yourselves, just visit the site www.elumba.com. Now, what's trending? What's the news making rounds? Let's find out together. On number 2021, I'll build 21 universities if elected governor. Maduka. Hope this wouldn't be another promise that won't see the light of day. Well, let's get to find out in details. Breaking: FIFA bans CAF president for 5 years over corruption. ECOWAS hosts retreat on code of ethics and professional conduct. And Labour leaders walk out of meeting with FG over fuel price hike. These stories, of course, are coming to you from Alumba site, news site. Okay, ECOWAS Peace and Security Architecture Operations Project holds its second steering committee meeting. Once again, the stories are on Alumba site. You can visit to get details of the story. And now we'll move on to the details of the stories I've told you. Okay, so one of the stories that you'll be getting today is seven soldiers feared dead in Borno landmine attack. And the details. At least 7 soldiers have been feared dead following a landmine ambush in the northern axis of Borno State on Saturday. The ill-fated soldiers who were on escort duty en route Baga came upon the landmines planted by suspected Boko Haram members. The incidents followed up with heavy gunfire on the convoy. The convoy consisted of truck loads of food heading to Baga town in Kukar local government area. The food supplies were to be distributed to returning internally displaced persons by Borno State Governor Babagana Zulum. Some of the civilians who scattered the food were natives of Baga living in Stadium IDP camp, Maiduguri. Soldiers who survived the attack said the terrorists seized weapons and a gun truck. Further investigations revealed that the attack was at Gazawa village, a popular Boko Haram checkpoint after Gajiram before Monguno. Okay, so that's one story. Yet let's go over to another one. Cult violence. Wike imposes 2 weeks curfew around Okoronodu. Now the details. The River State government on Sunday imposed a 2-week 24-hour curfew around the soon-to-be completed Okoronodu flyover in Obiapo local government area of the state, due to reported cases of incessant cult activities by some youths. Governor Wike, who made the statement during a statewide broadcast in Port Harcourt, said the curfew takes effect from Monday. He added that the decision became imperative after a State Security Council meeting and mandated security agencies to enforce the curfew and arrest the faulters. Wike noted that all forms of trading and vehicular movement around the flyover are also prohibited. Again, we wish to warn that community leaders that allow cultism and related activities to thrive unabated in their communities will be treated as collaborators to the resultant crimes and dealt with accordingly, Wike said. We urge all civilians to be part of the effort to curb cultism in the state by reporting any suspicious cult activity, including gatherings and initiations in or around their neighborhoods to the security agencies for immediate action. And that's it on the River State and cult activities and the curfew. We go over to the next. Second Niger bridge to gulp 68,000 tons of cement, Fashola. Now the details. The Minister of Works and Housing, Babatunde Fashola, has disclosed that the second Niger bridge will gulp at least 68 tons of cement, 19 liters of diesel, and 4 million cubic tons of sand. Fashola stated this during a town hall meeting with host communities and stakeholders of Second Niger Bridge. He urged agitating persons in the area to think about the economic benefits of the project to them. Fashola, who said some grounds on the job had been lost owing to conflicts resulting from compensation, said the project will cost the federal government 414 billion naira. He said while the bridge alone would cost 206 billion naira, ancillary road linking the bridge would cost about 208 billion naira. He said beyond the bridge and the roads, the materials needed for the constructions were big economic empowerment for host communities and people of the two states of Anambra and Delta State. And now we move over to another story. This one is on recession. We know that recently stories are making rounds that recession is hitting Nigeria again. And this is the second time in 5 years. And some say it's under Buhari that we're seeing so much recession and hardship on the people. Now let's get the details of the story as Serap tasks Buhari to cut costs of governance, not public service. Let's get the details together. Socio-Economic Rights and Accountability Project Serap has sent an open letter to President Muhammad Buhari urging him to put the country's resources at the service of human rights and to support the less well-off to enjoy an adequate standing of living through cutting the cost of governance and implementing bold transparency and accountability measures in your government's response to Nigeria's second recession in 5 years. In the letter dated 21st November 2020 and signed by Serap Deputy Director Kolawale Oluwadare, the organization said the economic crisis provides an opportunity to prioritize access of poor and vulnerable Nigerians to basic socio-economic rights and to genuinely recommit to the fight against corruption. The country cannot afford getting back to business as usual. Serap said implementing human rights transparency and accountability measures will save money, address projected adverse human rights impacts on the recession, and fast-track the economic recovery process. It is not too late to take urgent measures that will put the country's wealth and resources to work for the common good of all Nigerians. According to Serap, decades of mismanagement and corruption and deep-seated deficiencies in public financial management have directly contributed to higher levels of borrowing and public debts, and consequently, the economic recession. Successive governments have squandered the promise afforded by the country's natural wealth and resources. The letter read in part: the paltry resources Nigeria invests in essential public goods and services that will benefit ordinary Nigerians can be partly explained by the high spending of public funds to finance a life of luxury for members of the National Assembly, state governors, and other powerful politicians. The country's resources appear to have been used almost exclusively for the benefit of the political elites, rather on projects that will ensure the right to an adequate standard of living, the maximum welfare, prosperity, freedom, and happiness of every citizen on the basis of social justice and equality. Serap is seriously concerned about the adverse consequences of the economic crisis on the human rights of poor and vulnerable Nigerians, including denying them access to essential public goods and services such as healthcare, education, clean water, and regular electricity supply. We will be grateful if your government begins to implement the recommended action and measures within 14 days of the receipt or publication of this letter. If we have not heard from you by then as to the steps being taken in this direction, SERAP shall take all appropriate legal actions to compel your government to implement these recommendations for the sake of human rights, transparency, and accountability. Nigeria has been poorly governed for many years with systematic and widespread corruption at all levels of government, contributing to failures by successive governments to deliver essential public goods and services to Nigerians, contrary to the country's constitution and human rights and anti-corruption obligations. Huge budgetary allocations to fund security votes, renovate the National Assembly complex, pay jumbo salaries and allowances to members of the National Assembly, and life pensions to former governors and their deputies, as well as massive corruption in ministries, departments, and agencies. Contribute to low provision for health, education, and other essential public goods and services. Prioritizing the human rights of poor, vulnerable Nigerians means providing public goods and services free of charge for those who cannot afford them. This is the time to prioritize poor and vulnerable Nigerians and to ensure that any response to the recession goes well beyond bailing out large companies and banks. Our requests are brought into the public interest and in keeping with the requirements of the Nigerian Constitution 1999 as amended, and Nigeria's international obligations including under the UN Convention Against Corruption and the International Covenant of Economic, Social, and Cultural Rights, as well as the UN Guiding Principles on Human Rights Impact Assessment of Economic Reforms. Your government ought to have taken full advantage of court judgments ordering the full recovery of stolen public funds, recovery of life pensions collected by former governors and their deputies, and mandating your government to hold to account corrupt electricity contractors and companies that collected billions of naira but disappeared with public funds without executing any part. The continuing failure to enforce these judgments has contributed to increasing level of borrowing and in the process the inability to fulfill the country's anti-corruption and human rights obligation to progressively realize the human rights of poor and vulnerable Nigerians, including their rights to affordable and decent health care, clean water, adequate sanitation, and education. As the National Bureau of Statistics stated, the country's GDP recorded a negative growth of 3.65% in the third quarter of 2020. The country had earlier recorded a 6.10% contraction in the second quarter. SERAP therefore urges you to prioritize citizens' socio-economic rights and undertake comprehensive reform to stem ground corruption, including in MDAs, hold corrupt electricity contractors to hold, fully recover all stolen public funds and life pensions collected by former governors and their deputies, and ensure transparent and accountable spending of any recovered public funds on projects that will directly benefit poor and vulnerable Nigerians. SERAP also urged President Muhammadu Buhari to, in case to increase investments in public health, the healthcare system, education services, provision of clean water, and other basic public goods and services that will benefit the majority of the population. Redirect budget reallocations to renovate the National Assembly complex and take urgent steps to ensure that essential public goods and services are available to poor and vulnerable Nigerians. Improve transparency and quality of information in government budget and reform public financial management to bring it in line with international standards and safeguard the rights of media and civil society to speak out against corruption and human rights abuses. Direct the Revenue Mobilization Allocation and Fiscal Commission RMAFC to urgently undertake a downward review of remuneration and allowances of all political office holders, including presidents, vice presidents, state governors, and their deputies, and members of the National Assembly, consistent with the provision of paragraph N 32 of the third schedule, part 1 of the Nigerian Constitution. Regularly and widely publish full accounts of projected and actual government revenues and expenditure. Immediately instruct the Independent Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences Commission (ICPC) and Economic and Financial Crimes Commission (EFCC) to jointly investigate allegations of systemic and widespread corruption in MDAs as documented by the Auditor General of the Federation, and to ensure effective prosecution of those suspected to be involved and recovery of any stolen public funds. Ensure independence of the Office of the Auditor General of the Federation. That's a wrap there on the recession that Nigeria is sliding into, and this is a letter requesting Buhari to look into that. Okay, so we move over to the next story. Bizarre ICPC goose as detainee's name missing in court file despite 1 month detention warrant. Now the question is it possible for someone to be detained for 1 month and there is no trace of his story or his letter or documents to why he or she is being detained for 1 month? Well, let's look at the story and get to know why and what happened. In what could be best described as bizarre, Alemba News has stumbled on official documents showing that the name of a detainee could not be found in court file, despite being detained with a detention warrant. The detainee, Dr. George Davidson, a whistleblower and agent with the Eagle Eye Transparency International, was detained by operatives of the Independent Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences Commission, ICPC. At the Cairo Magistrate Court, it was confirmed that the filing of the court process that granted the detention warrant within ICPC of George Davidson was not in the central registry record. Also, it was discovered that the chief magistrate who purportedly signed the detention order, Mr. Emmanuel Inyana, was not the chief magistrate as at 14th October 2020, when the detention order on Dr. Davidson was issued. Reacting to strange developments, Davidson, who blamed the ICPC chairman, Mr. Bolaji Owasanoye, of obtaining a Jankara court order, said, "It is of essence legally that reports are maintained, and it's obvious that ICPC chairman Mr. Bolaji Owasanoye, in desperation to conceal the truth and shield suspected criminals for selfish gains, got Jankara court order to detain a whistleblower in place of primary suspects." Okay, we move forward to the last paragraph of that story. The whistleblower was incarcerated for supplying the ICPC chairman and his team with intelligence. The intelligence involved one Regina Dominic, a civil servant who reportedly possesses numerous properties within and around Abuja and New Nyanya in Nasarawa State. Instead of arresting and or investigating the accused person, ICPC incarcerated Davidson from 13th October 2020 to 30th October 2020 in a police cell. In an earlier report, Elomba News had reported an investigative report by Eagle Eye Transparency International on October 7, 2019 on one Mrs. Regina Dominic Nkpa Ebiabe, a staff of National Sports Commission NSC Abuja, the Federal Capital Territory FCT. Eagle's Eye Transparency queried her sources of income as she allegedly lives above her income and assets declaration status. According to the report, Mrs. Dominic upgrades 8 official civil servant and a director of a private company while in public service, worth over 500 million naira. The ICPC spokesman Azuka Ogugwa is yet to respond to a note of inquiry issued by Alumba News on the subject matter. And yes, we have here attached documents from pages of the court registry and the magistrate court's office. Okay, let's quickly take a look. The screen will be shared for you to get look at those documents as we have them here. All right, so quickly here you can see the documents. Can we read that? In the magistrate court of the Federal Capital Territory in the Karo Magistral District, holding at Karo. Okay, so here if we can see this, here's the date. The details that we can see is really faint, but let's look at this. Okay, so these are handwritten documents concerning the case, as you can see for yourself. Now the question is, why will all of this be documented and a court in the FCT doesn't have this in their file? What do you think? Is something fishy? Is there something missing? Is there something we're not seeing? Well, as this news progresses, as updates drop, we will bring them to you. And if you just joined us, this is Alumba Television, and my name is Angel Lady. Today we're looking at stories, what's trending, what's making news. We also told you about the Nigerian doctor Onyema, who is part of the success story of the COVID-19 vaccine that will be in circulation by the second quarter of next year, 2021. So we move to the next story. Corruption, 60 billion naira Nigeria gas contracts. Scandal rocks UK government. Let's look at the details of the story. British Home Secretary Priti Patel reportedly backed a company accused of obtaining Nigerian gas contract through corruption. Alumba News has learned Priti Patel sought to publicly intervene 3 times on behalf of an offshore company which has been accused in the British court of obtaining a €100 million contract from the Nigerian government through corruption. She reportedly backed the company Process and Industrial Development (PNID), a British Virgin Islands registered company, in its long legal dispute with the Nigerian government over a gas processing plant. The Home Secretary is currently in the center of a political storm after being accused of bullying staff in her department. She faces calls to resign after an investigation concluded that she had breached the ministerial code of conduct, although it also found her actions may have been unintentional. According to the UK-based independent newspaper, Ms. Patel's intervention in the court case took place before she was appointed Home Secretary by Boris Johnson. She was joined in supporting the company by Shankar Shingham, a prominent fellow Brexit advocate who is now a government trade advisor in the bitterly contested legal action. The case has been an issue of huge public interest in Nigeria with accusation of bribery and collusion between public officials and private concerns. President Muhammadu Buhari raised the matter during a speech at the United Nations General Assembly in September. The present Nigerian government is facing the challenges of corruption head-on, he said. We are giving notice to international criminal groups by the vigorous prosecution of the PNID scam attempting to cheat Nigeria out of billions of dollars. PNID had an agreement with Nigeria to build a massive plant to process natural gas. No work, however, was carried out on the plant. The company blamed the government for not supplying the gas. The government claims the contract was part of a fraudulent scam. PNID had won compensation of $10 billion over the failed deal, but the Nigerian government is appealing against the judgment, claiming that massive bribes had been paid to secure the contract. PNID denies any wrongdoing and holds that the Nigerian government had invented the corruption allegations in an effort to avoid paying compensation and to delay the seizure of assets. In September, a judge in London granted the Nigerian government the right to appeal. He ruled that Nigeria has established a strong prima facie case that the contract was procured by bribes paid to insiders as part of a larger scheme to defraud Nigeria. Sitting on the High Court earlier this month, Sir Ross Creston added that there is also a strong prima facie case that one of the firm's directors and a main witness in the court case gave perjured evidence. The Nigerian government had a separate ruling in their favor when the court ordered the release of 200 million euros it had put in 200 million pound rather it had put in place as security while the appeal is being heard. Judge Carson had rejected the request by PNID to increase the security level to 400 million. Ms. Patel first publicly supported PNID in an article for the newspaper City AM in November 2018, saying that Nigeria must honor its obligation to companies like PNID and pay the firm almost $9 billion as the sum in legal action was at that stage. She condemned the further legal action by the Nigerian government as a running scandal, obstinate, and flouting international law and convention. In May last year, Ms. Patel wrote an introduction to a pamphlet by Shankar Shingam, which also backed PNID against Nigeria. The pamphlet had been purchased by a consultancy firm run by Mr. Shingam called Computer. The same month, Ms. Patel wrote an article in the Daily Telegraph newspaper with Mr. Shingam about post-Brexit aid and trade, offering support once again for PNID and an apparent warning to Nigeria on the consequences for its alleged failure to adhere to laws. Okay, so that's yet another story on Nigeria's 60 billion naira gas contract scandal as it rocks the UK government. Now let's look at the story that's been ongoing on this is on the Lekki massacre. We'll quickly look at it. Lekki massacre into society urges activists Nigerians to slam liars with forensic status that pay. Although lies told by the present government of Nigeria and the country's serving and former security chiefs since mid-2015 have damagingly ruined the country's local and international image and reputation and will take decades to redeem. But the best way to handle serial liars in the country's corridors of power is to consistently slap them with forensic statistics. Forensic statistics are the researched and investigated and documented statistics gathered through natural and scientific methods following state actor or non-state actor or state-backed non-state actor greatly or industrial scale human rights abuses and violations perpetrated in Nigeria or any part thereof. Therefore, to do the above, activist Nigerians, including rights and media activists, criminologists, and lawyers, must reduce their level of synchronous and asynchronous web chats and debates outside facts, and pay more attention to investigative activism to unmask and document the atrocity crimes and their perpetrators, which must include where, how, and when the atrocity crimes were perpetrated, who perpetrated them, and who were the victims. To be included are the videos and photos associated with the atrocity crimes, which must include time, date, month, and destination, as well as eyewitnesses or survivors' accounts or testimonies. Okay, so we move over to yet another one. Maybe you should look at this. This is one of its evidences on this report. So we look at it. I'm quickly going to share the screen with you so that you can see. Here we see the remains of late Mr. Felix John Omie, who was shot dead during Lekki protests. He will leave Ikota, Lagos today, 12th, November 2022, Bayongo Adambe in Vadeka local government area of Benue State. Okay, so this is yet another evidence that the society has, and we have some more. And this is that of Chizoba, who also was hit by a bullet at the Lekki toll gate during the protest. Okay, so these are details and these are evidences that the society has, and of course you can see the casket being loaded into a vehicle for burial as stated right here. Okay, so we move on to the next story for today. Promissory note, how Obiano squandered 25 billion that is yet to reach maturity date. You also might want to get details of a story. More information has surfaced showing how the Anambra State Governor, Mr. Willie Obiano, squandered the 25 billion naira contained in the promissory note despite the fact that it was yet to reach maturity date. Lumba News had on 21st November reported that Senator Patrick Ifeanyi revealed the 25 billion naira promissory note that was issued to the Anambra State Governor in two installments, first part of which was meant to be collected by the state governor on 28th December 2020. In a letter issued by the Director General of Debt Management Office, Patience Oneha, and addressed to Senator Ifeanyi, it was confirmed that two promissory notes were issued to the state government. The first note was issued on December 28, 2018, as the sum of 10,097,722, okay, and will be due for collection on December 28, 2020. The second note was issued on April 1st, 2019 at the sum of 15 billion and will mature on April 1st, 2022. This is part of the reimbursement for the federal roads which were constructed during the tenure of former Governor Peter Obi. Unfortunately, the bulk SMS has been squandered. The bulk sum has been squandered, and even before it was yet to reach maturity date. Now you will be asking how it happened, what was it used for? Well, let's quickly look at it. Another pro reporter attached with a document showing that 25 billion promissory notes issued to Anambra State in two installments of 10 and 15 billion naira. The money, as noted earlier, was approved under former governor of the state as part of the reform for federal roads executed by the former governor. According to sources, the governor, Mr. Willie Obiano, bribed the involved banks with 8 billion naira to receive the 25 billion naira before its maturity date. Those specified in the handover note, the promissory note was not part of the money stated as saved for the state, which Obiano had already squandered. Simply put, he offered the promissory note to the banks as collateral and borrowed 25 billion naira after agreeing to forfeit 8 billion naira to the lending banks. Okay, that's yet another story. Now let's go to the next. Labor leaders walk out of meeting with FG over fuel hike. Let's get the details. Labor leaders on Sunday walked out of a meeting with the federal government over the recent hike in the pump price of premium motor spirits, PMS. The Premium Products Marketing Company, PPMC, had in a memo dated November 11, 2020, increased the ex-depot price of petrol to 155.15 per litre from 147.67 naira. The increase took effect on November 13th. Following the increase, the products now sells between 165 and 170 naira per litre. The meeting, which took place in Abuja, was a follow-up discussion on the resolution reached at previous meetings on the increase in the price of fuel and electricity tariff. The meeting, which began around 8 p.m., ended less than 15 minutes later as the labor leaders accused the government of not being sincere with the people. Among those present at the meeting were Deputy President of the Nigerian Labour Congress, NLC, Najim Yassim, and President of the Trade Union Congress, TUC, Quadri Olaleye. Olaleye, who spoke on the recent increase in the pump price of fuel, expressed sadness that discussions were ongoing from the previous meetings before the fresh hike. Government is showing a high level of insecurity in discussions with us and is also putting us at risk with the people we are leading, with the masses. We find it difficult to move freely, but the people in government are moving freely, he said. Also present at the meeting were Chris Ngige, Minister of Labor and Employment, Chris Ngige, Minister of State for Labor, Festus Keyamo, Minister of State for Petroleum, Timipri Silva, and Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Boss Mustafa. And this is another special report. This is on our special report session. And we have the story in the special report which says, where is Buhari in all these shenanigans? And the untold secret of the man in Asoro by David Adinaka. Let's get the details. To start with, the video clip of the aborted meeting of the South-South stakeholders leadership with the Chief of Staff to the President, Alhaji Ibrahim Gambari, that is trending in the news has provoked some mind-boggling questions, and every reasonable citizen of the Republic needs answers to most, if not all, these questions. Is President Muhammadu Buhari a pseudo person living in Aso Rock? Because where is the real president, the real Buhari that the electorate voted for in all of these shenanigans in the country? Moreover, the recent attacks on the convoy of Borno State Governor by Boko Haram terrorist group, which claimed some lives, and Governor Babangana Omar Zulum of Borno State nearly met his Waterloo, showed the passiveness of the man in Asarok. This tragic event never received a state visit or a strong press briefing to condemn the attack by President Muhammadu Buhari. Also, the most recent Lekki Tollgate massacre of peaceful protesters that attracted a lot of condemnation all over the world did not merit a state visit to the scene of the ugly event to console and empathize with the families of the martyrs. The most we got from the president was a wishy-washy pre-recorded national broadcast. Also, is the president not truly senile if he is not active in his responsibility as a president? It is pertinent to say that for quite a while, Mr. President has delegated most of the functions of government to his chief of staff. He directed all ministries, agencies, parastatals, and state governors to bypass the office of the vice president, thereby functioning through the office of the chief of staff to the president. This started under Abakari of blessed memory, the chief of staff to the president. This same executive order still in effect under Professor Ibrahim Gambari, the current chief of staff. In addition, the recently aborted meeting of the South-South stakeholders leaders with the chief of staff to the president was a statement to the fact that the chief of staff by executive fiat is the de facto president of the so-called Federal Republic of Nigeria. Suffice to say that not once was the name of President Muhammadu Buhari mentioned in the aborted South-South stakeholders meeting with the chief of staff to the president. Did Nigerians elect Professor Ibrahim Gambari as executive president for an important meeting of that magnitude to be officially organized at his instance? Are we really sure President Muhammadu Buhari is still alive, or will this kind of scenario not make many believe that there may be an iota of truth in the theory of Nnamdi Kanu, the leader of indigenous people of Biafra, IPOB, that the man in Asarok is an imposter and the real Buhari died in 2017? Also, was it not also true that all his national broadcasts were not live broadcasts? Were they not stage managed and pre-recorded visual audio tape? Another question is that, when was the last time President Muhammadu Buhari embarked on a state visit? Did President Muhammadu Buhari in recent time ever visit any hotspots that is crisis reading to assess the emphasize with the victims and show a sense of leadership? Furthermore, is there any untold secret about President Muhammadu Buhari, because his public appearance has been limited to Aso for a long time now? Theophilus Danjuma and former President Olusegun Obasanjo respectively insinuated that there is a secret in Aso that if it is revealed, it will put the whole country asunder. What is this untold secret? Nigerians want to know. Why do they not reveal the untold secrets? Peradventure, the country can once and for all break down on most of the component units that are now agitating for self-determination, namely Oduduwa Republic, Biafra, Niger Delta Masop, and the Middle Belt can be free to create their own sovereign state nations. To your tent, O Israel. Lastly, it seems like the untold secret in Asarok is the cause of all the multifarious problems in the country, and someone might need to unbundle the secret by telling us. However, if there is no secret in Asarok that is hindering the progress of the country, it is high time to honestly tell President Muhammadu Buhari that the performance of his administration is abysmal, and it's time for him to take the back seat, tender his resignation letter that is in bracket, and let a better hand saddle the leadership of the country. This is because the contraption called Nigeria is at the brink of precipice. In summary, where is President Muhammadu Buhari in all of these shenanigans? And what is the secret in the in Aso that makes the president really accessible? Okay, so these are stories that we gathered for you today, and this is where we call it a wrap for today. Do not forget to visit our site www.elumba.com for more of the news that you've heard today. Also, like our Facebook page and follow us on Instagram. Do not forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and turn on the notifications so that you'll be the first to get every of our posts and you'll get to know when we bring you gist for the day. Until I come your way again, this is Angel Lita saying stay safe. Bye now.